Welcome to The Foundry, where leaders are forged daily. Each week we investigate themes of leadership, entrepreneurship, and mindset with some of the greatest minds in real estate. And now, the data scientist of real estate, George Roberts.
Welcome back, passionate investors. Here is our part 2 of the interview with Michael Parks. We had a lot of exciting things to chat about in the first half, including private lending. In this second half, we're going to dive into various real estate topics, including whether you should go big or start small. And I gave Michael a long introduction in the first half, but just want everybody to know that Michael has done such a variety of things in his career, not only one of the founders of the Navigator Wealth Fund, but also an IT leader. He's also got a project management background. He's doing private debt, as well as offering equity positions in various real estate deals. Well, welcome back to the show, Michael.
Thanks for having me back.
So I have to say, you also have a very great YouTube channel. I've been out there for a long time subscriber. You've got some great solo clips and also some great interviews and in-depth roundtables. Just caught that interview with Michael Blanc today, the Michael Blanc, and also had an opportunity to see you and Jeremy, and you have another partner in that. I forget the name.
Dr. Lee Newton.
Yeah, exactly. And you're talking about land contracts, etc. So really want to say, people go out there, probably should go find Michael's channel and subscribe, because there's a lot of real wealth of information. So tell us about what it took to build up that YouTube channel.
Thanks for mentioning it. So really, it was an effort to reach out to people who were like me, right? People who had long time careers, or just very, professionals that really had an interest in real estate and weren't sure how to get started. And I really learned a lot of it from, my time working at the REITs. And then, quite frankly, through podcasts and some mentorship and some other things. So my goal of my channel was really to get information out to people who just didn't know, maybe didn't have the time, maybe didn't know where to start, maybe didn't even want to be like I am, a very active real estate investor, right? I'm a passive investor, but I'm also an active investor. I run our fund. And so how do you bring people along? Because it's just a foreign concept. So what I did is I just started with structuring a lot of the basics. And I like to think that I did it in a way, or people tell me I did it in a way that is fairly easy to understand and follow along. And they feel like as they go through my various series of videos that they're getting smarter along the way. And so I put those out, and I did some marketing around it. To be honest, not a lot, but I would like to do more. And now that we've launched this Navigator Wealth Fund with Jeremy, we are going to double down on a lot of new content. We haven't started putting it out, so I'd encourage you guys to go subscribe so that you'll get it when I do put it out. A lot of it is around what we just talked about. How do you get into the lending market? Because to me, that's where it's at right now, more than equity.
Yeah, love it. Totally agree. I'm definitely looking for some more debt as the debt that I own matures. Would like to replace that with something very safe. I mean, once you have a certain amount of money, it's not really about getting rich, it's about staying rich. So
that's right.
Protect that.
Got to keep it. Got to keep it.
Yeah, and definitely have to say your channel, I think, does help people retire confidently. I know you've got videos about what's a syndication, what are some of the concerns or apprehensions of people that may be new to syndications, et cetera, how to get involved. So really good stuff. And probably just one other thing I'll just throw out there. I know if you're in the Boston area, I believe you're still running a meetup out there. So come out and meet Michael Parks in person.
That's right. So I think there's one tonight, but by the time this is released, that won't be tonight anymore.
Well, there'll be another one.
There will be one
by the time it's released.
Every month. We typically do them on Monday nights. We do it over the Barrymore restaurant in Newton, Massachusetts. Come out, have dinner, get some drinks when we talk real estate with real estate people. And we usually have a short presentation of some advanced topics that people always like.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, then maybe we'll talk just a little bit more about your personal history. I think you have a very interesting history. I know you started kind of small, if I'm not mistaken. I think you invested in a series of duplexes in New Hampshire.
So I did have a ski house in New Hampshire that I rented for a while,
Okay.
but the duplexes, there was actually, it's 20 units in Western Mass,
Mhm.
in the Berkshires. And so there's an 8 unit, a 5, and a 3, and another 4. So I bought them kind of most of them as a package. I added one of the 3 families on later. So yeah, I mean, when I got started, like I said, I didn't really know the big business of real estate investing. I just said I want to put my money to work in real estate, and so I um, I found Bigger Pockets podcast. I think everybody finds that eventually if they in fairly early on, and talked about buying smaller multis was a lot of the topics at the time, and so I started doing it and got a lot of great experience that way, and then began to scale from there.
Yeah, and I love it because I think it's a great way to go. A lot of gurus will tell you, oh, hey, get the 100 to 200 unit deal, and that's fine. Hey, if you want to start big like that with a bang, and if you've got that guru there who can sign on the loan and walk you through it, I think that's beautiful. But I started out small, ended up syndicating myself, and just like Michael, I operate. I also invest passively. I think that's the ideal mix. I don't really think there's any one size solution or one size fits all because there are just so many ways to play the real estate game and win.
Yeah, I mean, in general, I think people are smart to invest in what they know, or invest with people that they trust, that know what they don't, and they can learn from them. So I think that's how all of us, or many of us anyway, in the real estate industry, continue to grow and build careers and build wealth.
Yeah, I love it. And then of course you've also been on the other side of real estate investing, the institutional side, that you were working at a REIT for some time. And I know you go into, I think, great depth in this in the Real Wealth Solutions podcast. But tell us a little bit about that experience and how that helps you to be a better investor today.
Yeah, so the REITs were interesting. Certainly learned a lot, and so the things I don't invest in REITs. I don't do that now. I have in the past, and what I found with, and maybe we could just start. What do we mean by REITs? And mainly I'm talking about public REITs, publicly traded. So they're traded on the stock market, just like you would buy a mutual fund. But in this case, your REIT is a set of real estate portfolio. For instance, maybe it's all senior living housing, or it's multifamily apartments, or it's industrial and logistics buildings, right? Or it could be a mix. So there's an investment thesis, a bunch of buildings. You can buy and sell that REIT stock shares like a stock on the stock market. It's highly liquid, right? Just you can buy it and sell it anytime you want when the market's open. And there's a lot of advantages. Liquidity is great, right? But what you find if you look at them is the REITs are not nearly going to create the same type of returns, in my view, as you would get when you're more of a direct investor through a private placement memorandum. And why is that? Well, I mean, there's very large companies that sit behind to run those REITs, and that's a lot of
Yeah.
salaries and a lot of high price salaries. And you've got to pay those, right? That comes out of the assets that are owned by the REIT before you get your returns. So certainly you got to support the large companies that are there behind those REITs. And then the other thing is when you think about a motivation of the company running the REITs, sure, would they like to make a lot of money with their buildings for their investors? Of course, because they want more investors in their REIT. That makes sense. But the reality is it's really just about growing the number of buildings and growing the investors. And the difference between, percentage return of being a little higher or a little lower is less important than it is growing the size of the assets under management.
Yeah, and the quality of the assets too. I mean, these are super high quality assets, generally don't have a whole lot of value add. Essentially, what they're looking for is some stable cash flow so they can continue to provide a decent distribution to their investors. Not really quite the same model that a syndicator or maybe an owner of some smaller multifamily might pursue.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, really, the REITs are about trying to get most of them are about trying to get the cash flow, stable properties, not the value add and sell, right? Usually, the REIT is like the final destination for an asset, as opposed to being an interim step to grow value, create value, get a good return, and flip it. Those get flipped to the REIT to just operate. The other thing that's interesting with, REITs have a whole weird set of rules. It's just a separate set of rules. And one of the rules has to do with limiting other income. So there's things you can do when you privately own an asset to drive income that is more challenging to do in a REIT with some of the rules. So for instance, if you had a space in the base in your building that you wanted to turn into co-working space, right? If you own that building, you set it up with cubes, and you got to, make sure you're in the zoning and all that to do it. But you can just start a co-working business right there, charging memberships for office space. If you want to do that in the REIT, you start getting too much of this other income. Now you don't qualify as a real estate investment trust, a REIT. You are now an operating business, and it gets complicated. So REITs are a little bit handcuffed in terms of all the things that they can do to drive value. Ultimately, a REIT is a trust to own real estate. So that's what it's got to do.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that contrast because definitely I think there are a lot of people that get the idea that, hey, why don't I just do this? It's passive, but there are better ways, I think, to be passive. You can always diversify by investing in the general stock market. You don't need to be stuck with REITs.
Yeah.
In any event, I want to have a little fun here. So I have some whimsical questions, and then if you don't mind, we'll move into the lightning round. So, okay, Michael, you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, here we go. So this could be like anything. Here, what's your favorite junk food?
I don't know. I really like hell of a good French onion dip with some bugles.
All right, good
How's
stuff.
that?
And then, all right, if you could jump into a pool of anything, what would it be?
Money.
Yeah, getting right down to the point. I love it. And then, what is the most important part of your routine?
List making.
Yes, love it, love it. I feel like there's some project management coming out in there. All right, so let's move on to the lightning round. Be a little bit more serious for a minute. Michael, if you could be known for only one thing, what would it be?
I would say great character.
What's the greatest lesson in leadership you learned as an entrepreneur?
Don't get discouraged. Keep moving forward every day. You can't go backwards.
And what personal characteristic has been most pivotal to your success?
I would say it's the old word that people used to use is stick-to-itiveness. Ability to just keep grinding forward.
That determination, I love it. I swear that's part of every success story. All right, so let's be whimsical one last time. I got my random questions here. Just tell me when to stop cutting the deck.
You're good. Let's try that
All right,
one.
here we go. Top question. Ooh, which fabulously impractical car would you like to own?
The new Corvette ZR1.
Love it. Yeah, those new Corvettes are pretty amazing. They're looking more and more like those exotics. They're giving them a run for the money. So good pick there. What is one tip or trick that investors can implement in their business today?
Take stock of their financial position and make sure all their money's working for them.
And can you name a book that's helped to forge you as a leader, entrepreneur, or investor, and tell us why?
Really like the Never Split the Difference with Chris Voss.
Yeah.
I now approach negotiations entirely differently after that book. It's much more fun.
Yeah, I know. I always have to smile when somebody says, let's just split the difference. It's like, oh, I saw that coming. Yeah, exactly.
Sorry.
You got to know what you're looking for, etc. Okay. So can you start us out with a quote to help forge our listeners as leaders and entrepreneurs?
Oh, so as a leader, I think of know the way, show the way, go the way.
Beautiful. All right. So now's the time where if you want to reach out to Michael, want to make sure that you have the opportunity to do that. So email, website, carrier pigeon, or smoke signals. What is the best way for our listeners to reach out to Michael Parks?
Yeah, email Michael at navwf.com. That's Navigator Wealth Fund, navwf.com. You can also just check out the website and book a call there. Love to get to know anyone who'd like to know more about any of the things we talked about: private lending, equity investing, growing the real estate career. Love chatting with everybody about all those things.
All right, beautiful. Well, thank you so much. I look forward to releasing this episode. I appreciate you taking the time to share your knowledge and experience with our audience.
Thanks, George. Appreciate you having me on.